I work as a private residential security guard in a posh neighborhood. Before working in private security services, I was in the Navy. After nearly 10 years of service, I decided to leave the job and started working in security. Family and personal reasons. The neighborhood where I worked was a gated society. I was pretty well known because I served in the naval forces actively and because I had a calm demeanor. A few months ago, new neighbors arrived. They were a family of 6, a wife, a husband, and their 4 kids. The wife almost had some sort of argument with the neighbors every day. Sometimes it would be related to kids, and sometimes they'd just say something snarky and nasty. It was safe to say that pretty much nobody liked the new neighbors. The wife in particular was way more intolerable than everyone else. She was called Karen by everyone. One time, she picked a fight with another mom when Karen's kids were not invited to a birthday. The worst part was that she did it while the birthday was happening. Karen had a meltdown and all, accusing everyone of purposefully leaving her kids out of the birthday. It was true. They were intentionally not inviting the kids, but only because Karen's kids were notorious bullies. They would deliberately destroy some showpieces or beat little kids. And when the neighbors complained, Karen would only say that her kids are just kids. These things happen. It's a part of childhood. You shouldn't be so harsh on my kids, okay? If the neighbors asked for compensation for damaging their belongings, she would outright reject it or plainly ignore it. In just 1 month of her arrival, everyone was already getting tired of her bullcrap. I never had much interaction with Karen, mostly because she would treat others as some lowly creatures. She'd not even bother to learn someone's name and just address them as, "Hey, you." I had no intentions of any interactions with her. However, this one time she dragged me into one of her dirty games. It was a Sunday and most kids were playing in the park. My kids, who lived near this neighborhood, were also there to meet with his friends and play. My kid, let's call him Will, was 11 and lived with my ex-wife. Let's call her Koo. All 3 of us had a really good relationship, and I loved him very much. He was friends with some of the neighborhood kids since they went to the same school, so he'd come to visit them every once in a while. My ex would also be worry-free because she'd know that I could keep an eye on him. I was out patrolling when I see Will having a fight with Karen's kids. The naughty kids were throwing sand at Will and his friends. I went to go check up on them. "What's happening here? Everything okay?" I asked the kids. The other moms came and scolded Karen's kids. One of her kids began crying and throwing a fit. Upon hearing the noise, Karen came running towards the park. "Why are you troubling my child?" she cried as she wiped tears from her child's face. I explained how they were fighting with the kids, and Karen said, "Who are you to talk to me like that, you penniless guard?" I wasn't shocked. She had that whole holier-than-thou thing going on. "Ma'am, I am just doing my job." She rudely asked me to shut up, and then she had a heated argument with the moms. When the moms politely asked her to leave, she flipped her middle finger and stormed off with her kids. I asked Will if he was okay. He just had a bit of sand in his hair. I asked him if he wanted to go home and take a shower, and he said that he'd like to leave in half an hour. Then he and the other kids left the park with their bicycles. Barely 20 minutes had passed when I received a call. Apparently, 2 of the kids fell in a manhole and got pretty injured. They instantly called the ambulance, and I ran towards the street where it happened. I was really uneasy, and for some reason, I couldn't shake this bad feeling I had. When I reached the street, I saw Will and another kid being pulled out from the manhole. Will had injured his leg severely and was bleeding in the knee and arms. The other kid's head was bleeding. I quickly offered Will water and asked him how he felt. Thankfully, the ambulance arrived on time, and I called Koo and told her the situation. I couldn't understand how the manhole cover disappeared. It was there when I last checked, which was an hour ago when I was patrolling. That only meant that someone deliberately removed the cover. I headed to the hospital immediately. Koo had already arrived. They ran some tests and did some checkups. Fortunately, none of the kids had a severe injury. They told us that the kids were to be admitted for the next 2 days and then they would be free to leave. Will had slept already. I asked Koo to take care of him because I had to go back to duty to check on what happened. I called one of my coworkers and he informed me that the whole thing had turned into a big mess. Karen had somehow involved me and told everyone that she saw me removing the manhole cover earlier that day. I was livid. My own child was in the hospital, and she had dared to accuse me of something so terrible. I went and found a few neighbors standing near the manhole and discussing the accident. As soon as they noticed me, they asked if Will and the other kids were okay. I saw Karen smirking from her driveway. She was insufferable. Everyone told me to ignore her, but I walked to her anyway and asked why she blamed me. She pretended to be innocent. I don't know anything. I'm just telling things as I see them. You were patrolling here earlier, right? I saw you move one of the manhole covers with my own eyes. That's why those kids got hurt. You should have been more careful. I couldn't believe what she was saying. She was vile, but this time she had crossed the line. Anyone could have gotten seriously hurt, and she was putting this on me? I was the easy target. I was aware of that very well. Suddenly, I got a text notification to meet everyone in the community office area. We were going to have a meeting. Everyone gathered in the hall in an hour. I was standing and watching Karen, who now looked a little anxious. The head of the committee asked Karen to tell everyone what she saw. Suddenly, the room went quiet. We all knew she only had some really messed up opinions to share. She pointed her finger at me and said, "I saw him. He did it." People looked at me and started whispering in hushed tones. I didn't even flinch. I knew she was framing me only because earlier I had wounded her ego. "Can you elaborate? What did you see?" the head asked. "Well, I was returning from the park after checking up on my kids. I saw this man near my house. He was removing the cover on the manhole. I thought he was just doing his job or something, so I didn't pay more attention and went back to my house. That's it." "When did it happen?" someone from the crowd asked. She thought about it for a moment, then said, "Around 4:30-ish. I don't remember. I wasn't wearing a watch." The head turned to me and asked my side of the story. "I was patrolling around 4 to 5 p.m. I saw Mrs. Karen in the park around 4:30. She said that she went home after checking up on the kids, but the last time we saw her, she was storming off with her kids because she had a fight with the other moms. She talked like she was alone when she witnessed me removing the cover, but she wasn't. And, like I mentioned, I was near the park area," I said calmly. "Oh, come on. I told you I don't remember the time. It might be 4 p.m., she yelled. She was biting her lips anxiously. "See, I don't remember the time. All I remember is him removing the cover. I say we report his behavior to the company and the cops and fire him. I would never do this. What if my children fell in the manhole? Ugh, it would be terrible. So, you can see that I have no motive. However, he might have some motive. He was being rude to my angels earlier and probably wanted to harm them. He has nothing to lose. That's why he did it. Why would you even listen to him? He's just a guard anyway," she screamed at the top of her voice. Then she pointed her finger at me and said, "You, confess, now!" The head patiently replied, "He has been in this neighborhood for about 3 years now. We know him pretty well. He's got good credentials and he has served in the Navy for the last 10 years. There has never been such an incident before, and we know he's not careless at his job. Apart from that, everyone really cherishes him. You, on the other hand, have had several fights with multiple people within a month of your arrival. Your kids bully other kids, too. And you almost never fulfill your responsibilities as a residential member. So there's a reason why we can't make any decision hastily." Karen's mouth was slightly ajar. She was furious, but she also looked a bit nervous. The committee head asked me what had happened earlier in the park, and I explained in grave detail. Karen cut me off in the middle and said, "Still, That's no reason for you to trust him so much. That's it. I'm calling the company he's working under. I'm going to tell them what had happened and have him fired. You already know the rules of this residency, okay? I have every right to take it to his company if I find him incapable. He has deliberately harmed the kids and you are still siding with him? Shame on all of you. Mrs. Karen, in case you didn't know, one of the kids who got injured was my kid. So your words are pointless. I would never harm him in any way. Karen's expression turned blank. Why were your kids in this neighborhood? Did you bring your kid here to enjoy the perks that we pay for? Will's friend's mom sternly replied, Chill, he was with us. He's my kid's best friend. I let my kid go to Will's house every now and then, and Will comes to visit us too. He isn't enjoying the perks, he's just playing with his friends. Last time I checked, there was no prohibition from letting your children's friends play with him in the park. He's our guest, so don't you dare accuse him unnecessarily. Also, it's not an everyday thing, it happens once a month or so. Karen was fuming. She told us that she was going to report everyone and me. She kept saying that they should make new rules so that the inferior, filthy kids don't mix with their well-mannered children. Koo was easily richer than anyone in that neighborhood. I pointed that out, which only made her madder. She started shedding fake tears and criticizing us for being against her since day one. I cut her short and told her that I was ready for an investigation. If what she said really happened, we should all do what is right. I looked her in the eyes and told her that we were going to check the CCTV footage. After all, I am just a guard. You are right, there's no reason why anyone should trust me. We should do everything by the procedure, like you said. As soon as she heard the term CCTV, she started panicking. She was incessantly talking about how everyone should have believed her because she was a resident and how they were wrong to side with a lowlife like me. Then she almost pleaded with me to confess my crimes. Yes, but shouldn't we check the CCTV? You said it yourself that we should all follow the rules, right? And they have already made up their mind. What can I do? I'm just a lowly guard. She was breathing heavily. Nobody paid her any attention, and we all headed towards the control room. We found the footage, and there were no surprises, really. The way she defended herself so strongly and how she was trying to prevent everyone from watching the CCTV footage made it very clear who was behind everything. Karen had moved the manhole cover herself and hid it near her driveway. It happened around 5 o'clock, which was a few minutes after our argument in the park. Then she put a newspaper above the cover. She hadn't anticipated that some kids would fall on it soon. She was horrified when she saw both the kids running on the street and stepping on the newspaper. When they fell, she quickly opened her front door and hid inside her house instead of helping the kids. We were appalled. The head of the committee went to Karen's driveway and found the cover. They called the landlord of her house and informed them what had happened. Along with that, they told them everything that she had been doing to cause problems. They also sent Karen a text that they were going to report this to the police. The cops came and asked Karen several questions. I went home earlier, so I didn't have to see what happened afterwards. They told me that the landlord was going to give her an eviction notice that they would have to vacate the house in a few weeks. The cops took her with them, but we agreed not to file a complaint. Instead, she had to pay for the damages and live the rest of her days without causing any trouble. Shortly after 2 weeks or so, Karen and her family left for good. Many years ago, I worked as an engineer repairing retail customer PCs. Our team was small, and there were often times when the amount of PCs needing repair was more than the team could go through during normal hours. In these circumstances, we were allowed voluntary overtime on Saturday and would get time and a half for it. The rules for the overtime were flexible. We could start when we wanted and finish when we wanted, and we would get paid for each full 60 minutes we were clocked in for. Back then, my girlfriend, now wife, used to work until 2 p.m. on a Saturday, so I would go in for 9:30 a.m. and leave around 1:30 p.m., giving me plenty of time to pick her up. This worked out great for everyone. However, the company structure was a little strange. with the front-facing customer service under the management of one director and the back of the house, including my team, under the management of another, and they despised each other, constantly trying to cause each other problems. And of course, the workers were always caught in the middle. One fateful Saturday, I was working and noticed the front-facing director walk up, see that I was there, and he moved on without saying anything. I didn't think anything of it until a short while later left at 1:30 as normal. I got in as normal on Monday to find that I had a meeting request from my director. Confused, I attended the meeting and found both my director and the front director also there. Turns out that the front director had arranged for a customer to bring in their PC for an urgent repair on Saturday, having confirmed I was there to fix it. On-the-spot repairs were very rare, reserved for only the most problematic or highest spending customers. Me not being there to look at it had caused the customer to have a meltdown in the shop in front of many other customers. Of course, the front director took the opportunity to bring this up with the MD to get one up on my director, leading to the Monday meeting, where she was out for my blood. Luckily, as the overtime rules for our department were clear and I followed them, there was no direct action taken against me, with my director supporting me. However, one thing that did come from this was that we lost our flexible overtime. From that point on, if we wanted to do an overtime on a Saturday, we must be there for the whole day. As I wasn't willing to lose my entire Saturday, overtime stopped. It took less than a month for my department backlog to hit over 100 units. Our target was to have roughly 15 at the end of each day. I had originally wondered why my director didn't put up a fight when the new rule was set, but it didn't take long to see the number of customer services complaints and call waiting times skyrocket, all of which was the front director's responsibility. Not long after, my director approached me smiling to let me know that the front director had gone to the MD, first to try to force us to do the overtime, and when that failed, begged for the new rule to be removed. So, the next Saturday, I was back earning a little extra cash, and that director didn't try to screw around with our hours again. I love how he verified that you were there without even asking how much longer you were going to be staying there. Blatantly sounds like he was trying to avoid the egg on his face, only to get a full omelet a month later.